The wind carried the taste of ash and salt as Drogon's wings beat against the night, each sweep of the great dragon's pinions scattering clouds that glowed a dull crimson in the reflection of his internal fire. He flew alone, yet the sky seemed alive with ghostly murmurs, as though every spirit that had ever knelt before Dragonflame watched his passage. Behind him lay the embers of King's Landing and the memory of a queen whose loss still tightened the sinews of his monstrous heart. Ahead loomed a darker promise, the smoldering bones of Valyria. Drogon did not think as men thought, but something older than thought stirred within him, a rhythm buried in the marrow of every dragon since the first flame. It called him over jagged islands where winds hissed through obsidian tors, over waters where the doom-lit fissures of the seabed still wept orange tears. The closer he flew, the hotter the air tasted, and the more insistently the rhythm pounded, keeping time with his massive heart. When dawn at last bled over the broken peninsula, the light found the dragon spiraling down through sulphurous vapors toward a caldera whose rim glittered like a crown of black diamonds. He alighted on a ledge of fused stone, claws sparking as they scraped. Beneath him, a magma lake pulsed like a wounded giant, its glow licking the undersides of his wings. He roared, and the molten surface trembled in answer. The rhythm became a roar within him now, a thunder rolling up from his gut and out through flaring nostrils. He dipped his head toward the magma and exhaled a jet of blackered flame. The lake raged white, then peeled away, revealing something that shone with an inner red of its own. A single egg, larger than any that had ever warmed in the brazier of a cowl's tent. Its shell bore rivers of obsidian and veins of deepest garnet. Here was Vagar's fury and Merax's wrath, bound into a single stone orb, the final scion of Balerion's line, laid by Drogon in secret fire, beneath the Red Keep, while men warred and queens died. Yet as he watched the egg, Drogon felt the ancient rhythm falter, becoming instead a polyphonic beat. 7 hearts thudding against his ribs, where once there was only one. He crouched over the lake, talons gripping basalt, and unfurled his wings to their fullest span. Each sail caught the rising thermals, and each membrane glimmered with veins of flame. A second roar tore from him, longer and somehow questioning. The magma answered with a vertical plume that girdled the egg, bathing it in radiance so intense that its shell began to crack, not hatching but cleaving into 7 equal fragments. Where the fragments touched the air, they cooled and hardened again, each smaller than the original yet still larger than any dragon's egg men had ever seen. 7 perfect halves became 7 perfect eggs, each a different hue: the iridescent green of wild summer, the midnight blue of a cloudless winter sky, the royal purple of dusk over Valyrian hills, the red of fresh blood, the pale gold of dawn's first light, the snowy white of dying embers, and the onyx black shot through with scarlet lightning. Drogon's eyes reflected all 7, 2 pits of molten bronze flickering with sudden purpose. He gathered his newborn brood in the crook of one membranous wing, but a whisper slithered through the cavern that was not wind nor memory. It was language, crooked, half-remembered words of Valyria, spoken by lips long turned to dust. Fear Isa, blood calls. Drogon did not understand the tongue, yet the sense took root in him all the same. These eggs were not for his keeping, they were for the blood of many lands. So he lifted off once more, burdened by 7 eggs cradled against his belly. Smoke trailed him like a funeral shawl as he climbed, banking east, then south, then west again, as though the world were a wheel, and he the iron spoke fixing its rim. Every league he flew, a dream spun in the hearts of the worthy and the lost alike, a summons older than kingdoms, carrying the scent of dragonfire across deserts and storm-lashed seas. In an alley of Meereen's eastern district, where pyramids threw long shadows over squalid courts, a guttering torch cast light upon Nala. She was no more than 14, barefoot, with a sling of dates strung round her neck for market. She had never seen a dragon save for the black shape that had once circled Meereen's harbors. Yet as she haggled with an old widow for stale bread, a vision burst behind her eyes. A cavern of fire, a shell of shimmering green, and scales unfurling like new leaves after rain. Her hand shook, dropping the dates. She tasted copper on her tongue, though she had not bitten it, and the scent of smoke overwhelmed the stink of fish guts and camel dung. The widow muttered a curse, but Nala heard only a distant roar, and felt something inside her chest twist toward the western sky. Far across the narrow sea, in the lavender fields of Starfall, Sir Lenore Sand, unacknowledged son of Lord Edric Dane, leaned upon the hilt of his practice blade. Sweat sluiced down his shoulders too broad for his 16 years. He had bested 3 squires that morning and broken 2 wooden shields, but his restlessness only grew. As he watched seabirds wheel above the mouth of the Torrentine, a strange tremor pulsed through the sand at his boots, spreading up the long bones of his legs into his spine. He smelled salt, yes, but beneath it a drift of ash cinders, carried on a wind none of his companions felt. A memory that was not his flashed across his mind, of wings blotting out dawn, of ancient words spoken beneath a bleeding star. The vision lingered, then vanished, leaving him famished and feverish. He turned inland without knowing why, boots crunching over pale sand toward the deep desert. In the riverlands, a septon named Brynden of the Tree kneeled before an altar of 7-pointed star. His skin bore the softly pink scars of scourging, self-inflicted penance for doubt. Yet as he recited the litany of forgiveness, the candles beside him guttered, and the faces in the stained glass seemed to melt into reptilian snarls. The septon blinked, heart stuttering, and in that instant he knew that the 7 were listening, and that they were afraid. He felt a new devotion bloom like wildfire in his marrow, not to forsaken gods of crystal and oak, but to an ancient power that had slept beneath his lineage for untold generations. A hush fell over the sept, so complete Brynden could hear his own blood rushing like river rapids. When the hush broke, it was with the cry of a hatchling echoing across continents, and Brynden's lips formed a single blasphemous word: Dracarys. Beyond the northern wall, chilled to breaking beneath the aurora's fold, a spearwife named Skadi stalked a stag across blue-lit snow. She had slain whites. She had birthed twins in a winter cave. She had eaten the flesh of men to stave off starvation, and nothing in all her 20 winters had bent her spirit. Yet when the stag vanished behind a ridge and she crested it, she found the carcass already eviscerated. The whorls of exposed muscle steamed in the cold, and around them, printless snow melted in a perfect circle. She knelt, pressing a calloused palm to red-soaked slush, and the heat there burned her skin as surely as a forge. But it was the shape of the wound, curved, precise as though by scythe of hot iron, that filled her with wonder. She felt a pulse in the earth, then in her heart, beating ever faster, beckoning her southward, toward realms men called myth. On the summer islands, where parrots shrieked among breadfruit trees, young Captain Orion leaned over the prow of his Carvel Emerald Tide and peered into waters teeming with silver fish. His mind, however, was not on the catch. Storm clouds bruised the eastern horizon, and the sky's low growl seemed to echo within his bones. He smelled lightning, yet what touched his nostrils was char, richer, older. In the curling foam beneath the bowsprit, he glimpsed for a heartbeat the reflection of a great winged silhouette. But when he jerked his gaze upward, the sky lay empty save for gulls. Even so, he felt the silhouette burned into his mind as clearly as any tattoo, and with it, a certainty. His destiny did not lie with pearls or spices, but with flame of a different sort, smoldering far beyond the great continent to the north. In Old Town's citadel, amidst stacks of rotting scrolls, apprentice Maester Clarice rubbed her eyes raw from lantern smoke. She thought she would drown in dust and ink before ever forging her second link. Yet as she traced the glyphs of a Valyrian treatise on blood bonding, one the Archmaester swore was heresy, an ember of understanding flared within her. The text spoke of draconic resonance, of hearts attuned to eggs before birth, and as she mouthed an incantation long faded into footnote, she felt the library tremble. A gust of hot wind extinguished the lantern, and every candle in the aisle snuffed in a wave toward her desk, leaving one taper stubbornly ablaze, the wick of which coiled and spat until its flame burned a shade of purple she had never seen. Clarice reached forth, compelled, and the flame bent toward her like a supplicant. She did not scream. She simply wrapped the purple fire around her finger, and where it touched, skin and bone remained unmarred. But she felt the promise of pain held in reserve, like a hungry wolf on a leash. The treatise's margins writhed before her gaze, letters reshuffling into a single line of prophecy. 7 shall ride, and the old blood shall rise anew. Clarice closed the tome and packed a satchel of maps. Across the sea again, in the ruins of Volantis's slave pits, an unsullied once-named Grey Wing found work as guard for caravans and wandering septs. His old life had taught him to obey without question, and to feel without attachment. Still, a dream came to him in the brittle hours before dawn. An unending fall through clouds lit from within by red lightning, and below, a colossal eye the color of molten gold staring upward from darkness. The pupil dilated, swallowing him whole. He woke, not screaming. Unsullied did not scream, but gasping as though for the first breath of life. A thin shard of moonlight cut across his cot, and in it he saw motes of dust swirling, each ember bright as a spark. When a bell tolled toward morning, he found his spear unusually heavy, and its bronze head glimmered russet, though there was no fire near. He packed his kit. Something waited, and he would meet it, naked of fear. 7 hearts beat instead of 1. Drogon felt them like a constellation mapped upon his ribs. He carried the eggs east first, banking toward the Dothraki Sea, but an invisible tether tugged at him, jerking his head northwest. No dragon had ever flown so vast a wandering, not in the age of heroes, nor in the doom's long shadow. Yet Drogon chased the whispers, dropping each egg where instinct commanded, never once alighting upon human soil. Always he sought high spurs, deep caves, or hidden vales where mortal eyes rarely lingered. In the skies above Skagos, he shed the snow-white egg. Its shell crackled in the sudden heat, then cooled into uncanny calm beneath a wind that tasted faintly of pine and iron. Next he crested the mountains of the moon and loosed the dusk-purple shell into a grotto of moonstone, where silent bats scattered before the radiant heat. Over the Jade Sea's southern cusp, he let the pale gold tavern of dawn slip from his claws, sinking onto a jungle plateau, drenched in humidity yet now steaming with fresh-born warmth. On and on he flew, his wings frayed against gales that would have torn lesser beasts apart, but the primordial rhythm sustained him, thrumming in his very marrow. When at last the final egg rested, not hatched, but resting, within the heart of the dragon pit's blackened ruin in King's Landing, Drogon hovered over the smoldering city he had left to its ashes. No cheer, no lament greeted him. The city lay hushed as though even its ghosts feared to rattle chains. He roared, not in challenge but in mourning, and a tremor shivered through stones fractured by his earlier fury. Then he climbed high into a dawn shot through with dusty rose, turned east toward the ever-rising sun, and disappeared beyond mortal sight. Nala's journey began in secret, beneath a cotton tarp on a mule cart, bound for Astapor. She bartered her dates for passage, dates she knew by instinct she would never eat. Each night she dreamt of wings beating overhead, blotting out stars, and each dawn she woke beneath a film of soot, though the fires of the slaver city were days away. When rust-rid Astapor rose on the horizon, she slipped from the cart and circled the old fighting pits, where dogs sniffed at cracked tiles, still stained with the blood of former masters. The pull inside her ribs sharpened, pointing north beyond ridged dunes. She took nothing but a waterskin and the slaver's knife she had stolen in the night. Lenore Sand stole a horse from his lord father's stables, not out of spite, out of necessity. He left a note penned in the neat hand of a bastard schooled in secrets. "When next we meet I shall ride a wind no man can rein." He galloped by moonlight, the silver Torrentine gleaming to his left, until the desert swallowed sound. The horse lathered and balked, for there was a taste in the air like a forge. Still Lenore urged it on, keeping the sunrise at his back and the pulsing call, heartbeat to heartbeat. Before him, Sept and Brynden exchanged robes of gray for a traveler's cloak of mottled green, fit for no priest but every wanderer. He left keys and candles on the altar, and though his brethren called after him, promising penance and redemption, he walked out beneath the great sept's rose window and never turned back. When crows circled the belfry, folk whispered that they cawed traitor, traitor, yet Brynden heard instead a single refrain: fly. Scotty buried her spear wife's axe beside her dead lover's cairn. She kissed frost from the stone and whispered a promise to return. Then she strode south through Tormund's Pass, wearing pelts that reeked of smoke. She carried only a bone knife carved with twin images, a wolf and something much larger, wings unfurled around the blade. Orio set his caravel's prow toward the stepstones, though merchant wisdom abhorred such pirate-ridden straits. His crew muttered, yet Orio's gaze remained fixed on horizon lines that shifted each night. A hush possessed his every order, a confidence born of certitudes older than bondage. At dusk he tuned a bamboo whistle, and from its holes poured a melody that none had taught him, first mournful, then fierce. The song of Dragonlords sailing upon Valyrian winds. Clarice burned her novice's robes, forging her first link in secret. A fire and black chain clasp she forged from melted candle stubs and tempered in oil. She could not claim the title maester, yet she felt the weight of knowledge settle around her throat like tempered iron. She fled Old Town by night, sailing aboard a fishing skiff, charting a course decided by star patterns she had never formally studied yet now read as plainly as ink on parchment. Grey Wing marched west with a sellsword company, but he walked ahead of the column, spear reversed across his shoulders, eyes on the sky. The company's captain, seeing the slaves' haunted watchfulness, told him to make camp or be left behind. Grey Wing said nothing. At dusk he felt the earth hum, an echo of his dream, drawing him toward the smoking wastes beyond Volndaris. He abandoned the campfires and entered the ruins alone, a single unsullied against a sea of carrion birds. One by one, 7 souls crossed waters and wilds, deserts and mountain passes, each guided by an invisible tether that tightened the nearer they drew to their destined eggs. Storms assailed them, bandits tested their will, hunger gnawed their bellies, yet always the hum within warded them from death at the last instant. Like an unseen shield borne upon scarlet wings, in Skagos, winter's teeth bit at Nala's cloak as she clambered over icy crags. She had followed the call for moons, growing lean as a whip until the taste of salt and ash felt as natural as saliva. On the 113th dawn of her journey, she reached a fjord where the tide rolled in sluggishly beneath slabs of frozen mist. There stood a glacier cave, its mouth rimed with hoarfrost that nevertheless glowed faintly green. She stepped inside, breath chuffing white. The egg waited on a pedestal of petrified coral. The snowy shell shot through with veins of emerald fire. Nala's hand trembled as she reached out. The moment her skin brushed the shell, warmth rushed through her, fierce as sunlight, and the cage of bone around her heart rattled. In that instant, she knew her name anew. Not Nala the Barefoot, but Nala of the Green Flame, rider of the North Wind, yet unborn. Lenore found the dusk purple egg deep within a hollow of shivering aspens east of the Eyrie. Lightning cracked overhead though the sky was cloudless, and the hollow smelled of ozone. He approached in reverence, snow crunching under boots gone threadbare. When he touched the egg, power lanced through him, straightening his spine, searing memories of bastard shame until only the regal calm of purpose remained. Ash-violet scales shimmered across the shell like starlight spilled on wine, and in its mirrored surface, he glimpsed his own visage, older crowned by dragon horns of ghostly flame. Sept and Brynden's journey ended in the God's Eye. He waded into reeds and muck, guided by flickers of amber light beneath the water. There, half submerged in peat, the blood-red egg pulsed. He lifted it free, and the mire hissed as though in protest. The shell throbbed against his palms, and 7 velobed cracks whispered open only to knit shut again, as though the creature within tested its cradle. Brynden wept, yet his tears did not reach his cheeks. The egg drank them, and with each teardrop he felt his faith reapportioned, not destroyed. reforged in dragonfire. Skadi discovered the onyx egg beneath the broken statue of a forgotten king at the last hearth. Long abandoned after the war against the dead. Black shell split by crimson streaks, it lay in a nest of soot-coated bones, whites gone brittle at last. She lifted it, and her fingers found grooves shaped uncannily to her grip. Frost fell from her braids, hissing upon the shell, yet left no mark. A thrill coursed through her, wild as a blizzard. She laughed aloud, and the sound echoed like steel on stone. Oraio anchored the emerald tide beside a basalt isle no chart recorded, its peaks crowned with eternal storm clouds. Lightning skittered over wave-glass tide pools, where the pale gold egg glimmered in shallow water. The moment he lifted it, the storm stilled, and night birds fell silent. He gazed upon the shell, its surface a sunrise trapped in stone, and for the first time understood that freedom was not the absence of chains, but the presence of wings. Clarice found the midnight blue egg in a ruin west of Volantis, a domed observatory whose ocular aperture framed the constellation of the dragon. The shell pulsed like a heart, deep indigo flecked with sparks. As she pressed her palm against it, knowledge unfurled behind her eyes. Star paths, tidal forces, secret histories the Archmasters had purged. She felt the weight of those secrets settle upon her shoulders, yet found them lighter than any chain she had worn. Grey Wing reached Valeria's smoking shores, and discovered the ivory shell veined with faint silver, resting amid obsidian shards the color of old bones. He knelt, spear laid across his thighs, and bowed his shorn head. When he touched the egg, memory shattered. The lash, the loss of his manhood, the name stripped in Astapor. In their place rose a new litany. Strength, fire, flight. He took the egg in both hands, and for the first time he dared to smile. 7 bearers. 7 fledglings yet to hatch. Each felt the ancient rhythm settle into their hearts, synchronized now to their own pulses. In dreams they saw each other, faces blurred by distance, yet illuminated by the same inner glow. They knew without words that they were bound, their fates braided like the rivers of old Valeria. They would meet. They must. Across mountains scarred by war, across seas yet boiling from the doom's last sigh. They would find a confluence ordained before dragonglass cut the first flesh. And somewhere beyond clouds redder than sunset, Drogon wheeled on unseen currents, a lone sentinel soaring high above the realm of men. Behind his fearsome eyes, the rhythm of 7 hearts echoed, yet a deeper beat underpinned even that. The pulse of a primeval forge, stoked anew. For though men believed the age of dragons ended with queens burned beneath their own ambition, something vaster had awakened, and through these mortal vessels, its fire would sweep the world once more, slowly, inexorably, as all true conflagrations begin. Night gathered its banners across every kingdom, and under that shroud the 7 newly chosen dreamed of sky and flame. Their eggs warmed against their skin, and somewhere in the dark interior of those shells, 7 pairs of eyes blinked open, gazing upon futures ablaze with wing and scale. The world turned, unsuspecting. Winter's tail lashed the north. Dornish sands whispered of buried skulls. Traders in Korth spoke of a vast shadow crossing the moons. But in crypt and castle, in sept and sea, mortals clung to the fragile truths they had always known. By dawn, those truths would crack. The first hairline fissure appeared beneath Nala's palm as she slept curled beside her egg. A faint tink like breaking glass sounded, lost to the wind that moaned over ice cliffs. It was answered halfway across the world by a soft chirrup inside Laenor's saddlebag, then by a single thump from Bryndon's satchel, then by 6 breaths of heat fogging the air around Skadi, Oraio, Clarice, and Grey Wing. They did not hear one another, yet their hearts skipped in unison, and their dreams brightened, flooded with iridescent fire. The eggs were listening. The world would listen soon. And Drogon, Lord of Lonely Skies, banked toward the distant horizon where sun and sea forged paths of living gold, his silhouette etched in ember against the awakening dawn. The dance was beginning again, not of 2, nor of 3, but of 7, guided by the last son of fire, carrying within them the promise of empires yet unimagined, and of ashes the wind had not yet learned to scatter. Mist turned about Nala in luminous skeins as pale dawn sifted through the glacier's mouth. She swam up from uneasy sleep into a stillness so absolute it seemed the world had halted. Her fingers, numb and raw, yet curled possessively round the snowy green egg. A sigh like melting ice drifted from the shell, so quiet she feared she dreamt it. Then tremor followed. A minute ripple through the curve of stone that quivered straight into her forearm. She sat upright, snowflakes sliding from her braids. A second tremor came, sharper, and the tiny tink she had half heard in sleep rang out clear. A sliver of shell the size of a fingernail sprang free and clinked upon rock. Emerald vapor puffed from the wound, fragrant as crushed pine. Nala's heart hammered. She drew the egg close, pressing her cheek against heat that should have blistered flesh. It did not. Instead, warmth soaked her bones, chasing months of cold from her sinews. She wept without sound, tears hissing where they met the shell. Every droplet steamed away, and the fissure widened. Far south, Lenore dozed in a thicket, breath steaming from parted lips. His dream had carried him over star-bright deserts, and through pillars of moonlit stone, until he landed within a violet inferno. From its heart stepped a stallion wrought of flame, eyes incandescent. Upon its back sat a knight whose helm bore curling horns shaped from smoke. The rider raised a sword of alive crystal and pointed toward the mountains below. "Go," the dream knight commanded. Lenore jerked awake, drenched in cold sweat. His dusk-purple egg rested between his knees, and as he watched, a hairline fracture traced the shell's equator, glowing white along its root. The crack pulsed, time to his heartbeat. Lenore laid both palms on the egg. The pulse steadied, then quickened, drawing his breath into tandem until he panted like a man mid-sparring. When light flared out through the fissure, blinding violet, he could no longer tell if heartbeat governed the egg's rhythm or the egg his own. Brynden, the former septon, limped across marshy flats, pushing through waist-high reeds toward a barrow mound crowned by withered dogwoods. Mist lay thick, but his sense guided sure. Within his satchel, the blood-red egg thudded against his hip, each impact a church bell calling the faithful. Fear tugged at vestiges of his old vows, yet the egg's heat sang louder. The marsh yielded to a ring of dark water encircling the barrow. Brynden stepped in. Water rose to his shins, then knees, threatening to drag boots from feet. Midway, ripples converged around him, hissing where they touched the satchel. The egg burned hotter, metal kissing a forge. He drew it out, cradling the scalding sphere while water boiled around his thighs, wreathing him in fog. From the shell's apex, a chip flaked away, spiraling down like a ruby leaf. Where it sank, water sizzled. Scotty trudged through drifts beyond Carhold, breath pluming. Her onyx and crimson egg rode in a harness of furs against her spine. Every few steps, she felt its weight shift, subtle undulations as of something turning within. The hush of snowfall broke when a rending snap cracked through pre-dawn gloom. She spun, drawing her bone knife, eyes scouring white vastness for foes. The sound came again, not from snow, but from the egg, fractures zigzagging in jagged crimson down one flank. A glow like molten iron gleamed through each. Scotty grinned, cheeks split with cold. She undid the harness and brought the egg round. "Come then, little monster," she whispered, voice raw from wind. "Let us see what gods we slay together." On the basalt isle, Oraio kneeled upon a spit of glassy sand. Waves lapped with oil-slick hush. Above, storm clouds massed yet withheld thunder. He set the pale gold egg before him, palms up, offering a prayer he did not understand. Lightning forked inside cloud banks, illuminating the shell's sunrise swirls. With each flash, a new fracture etched the surface. Oraio closed his eyes. In darkness he heard surf, wind, his own blood, and beneath all three, a vast slow breathing, as though the sea itself inhaled flame. Clarice, deep in a ruined Valyrian observatory, traced runes etched into the midnight blue shell. Starfire winked in polished curves, flickering with every pulse. She placed the egg in the observatory's oculus, where a single beam of dusk-shadowed sunlight filtered down. The moment radiance kissed the shell, it shimmered to incandescence. A crack raced around its meridian, sparks skittering off into shallow dust. Clarissa's breath caught. Ink-stained fingers hovered, afraid to break centuries' forbidden moment. Yet curiosity outweighed fear. She pressed her thumb to the crack. An electric shock coursed up her arm, lighting visions. Constellations shifting, epochs folding, histories rewritten in trails of blue fire. Grey Wing walked the smoking beaches of Valyria, spear shaft balanced across shoulders. The ivory-silver egg thumped against his chest, and he felt it heat like a brand. Obsidian shards crunched under bare soles, but pain was old friend. The eggshell brightened, ivory whitening to starlight, silver veins throbbing. Grey Wing lowered to his knees. He had faced battle fearlessly, but now tears stung new scars. Something in the egg's hum assured him he was no tool forged for others' wars. He was hammer and sword both, master of his own forging. The first crack rang like a temple bell. He bowed, forehead touching shell, whispering a promise of freedom. Across continents, 7 eggs quickened, and across the sky Drogon felt them. The rhythm that had pounded in his bones for months now rose into a crescendo so loud it rivaled the thunder of his own wings. He swept above cloud banks, black shadow, across a bruised dawn, eyes blazing brighter than sunrise. No need to see the eggs, their fire lit him from within. With a bellow that scattered flocks 100 leagues below, he curved southeast, circling a figure etched into sky. An invisible 7-pointed star, whose nodes marked each chosen bearer. His roar stitched them together, drawing threads of sound and heat between fates set long before men carved thrones. Nala barely dared breathe. Splinters of shell leapt away, revealing a snout tipped with a scale like polished jade. The hatchling's first gasp exhaled emerald smoke that coiled through frigid cave air, melting icicles in its path. Eyes flicked open, luminous amber with slit pupils narrowing upon the child before it. Nala expected savage fury, yet what she felt was recognition, as though the creature peered not at her but into her. She reached trembling fingers toward the muzzle. The dragonling sniffed, then nudged her palm, leaving a smear of heat that pricked like nettles, yet did not burn. It chirruped, voice surprisingly soft, and the remaining shell shattered outward in a spray, revealing wings folded tight, membranes palest sea foam green feathered with opalescent motes. Nala laughed, a sound she barely remembered making. "Your name," she breathed through steaming dawn, "is Aeshara." The name was not hers. She heard it echoing from cave depths, conjured by forces older than the north. The dragonling stretched, vertebrae cracking, tail uncurling, whip long, and patterned in darker green diamonds. It shook free final fragments, then crawled onto her lap. Its belly scales, soft as silk, glowed from internal heat, warming her numbed thighs. She stroked the creature's crest. Outside, polar wind howled, but could not intrude. They were an island of fire in a world of ice. Lenore mirrored her joy leagues away. His hatchling burst from egg in torrential violet blaze. Flames sheeted over forest floor, licking dead leaves but leaving green life untouched. The young dragon unfurled wings that shimmered like storm clouds veined with lightning. It screeched, a trumpet of rending skies, and saplings bent. Lenore, hair whipping, stood his ground. The dragon snapped its jaws, smoke curling, then lowered its head. Lenore placed his sword upon the soil and knelt. "Stormlance," he said. Thunder answered, rolling down mountain seeds. The name fit. A spear hurled from heavens. The beast's talons, each long as Lenore's finger, touched the man's breastplate lightly, marking it with soot. Lightning played over both, binding them. Bryndon's blood-red egg ruptured in scalding marsh vapor. A dragon the color of sunset emerged, scales bleeding from scarlet to apricot along flanks. First breath sent a gout of red flame skyward, igniting reed tops before snuffing with hiss. Bryndon staggered back. Holy symbol scorched into useless charcoal upon his chest. The creature gazed at him, yellow eyes fathomless. He sank to knees, arms spread as if embracing death. The dragon padded forward, sniffed charred sigil, and exhaled gentle warmth. Soothing, blistered flesh. Brynden understood. Penance accepted. "You are Emberfaith," he proclaimed. The dragon nuzzled his brow, leaving ash smear. In wind-swept wastes, Skadi's onyx wormling erupted howling. Red lightning spidered across winter clouds overhead as it shook free charcoal shell. Its crests jutted like black iron, edged crimson. It flared wings, translucent membranes glowing with ember tracery, then leapt upon a snowdrift, melting it to vapor. Skadi laughed aloud, brandishing her bone knife skyward. The dragon answered with gout of crackling flame, so hot it flashed snow into diamond dust. "Warbrand!" she roared over storm. The dragon's eyes, molten garnet, reflected her grin. Orion watched dawn hatch upon the isle as his golden beast broke its prison. Sunlight met scales already bright, turning them blinding. The creature shook water from wings, droplets sizzling into steam halos. It tested air with a trill like wind chimes. Orion bowed low. "Seabreaker," he murmured. The dragon leapt aloft, catching gusts. Its shadow rippled across waves before returning to coil round its captain, tail caressing his shoulders like living sash. Clarisse's midnight hatchling unfurled under starlight inside the observatory. Constellations seemed to shift to accommodate its ascent as it clambered along pillars, claws clicking on stone. When its wings spread against celestial dome, they resembled night sky rent open, each scale a starlet. Clarisse whispered, "Noctera," a word once footnoted in forbidden texts, meaning sky scribe. The dragon crooned, nipping her quill fingers with tenderness of a cat. Gray wings ivory wimmling emerged upon black sand, its first roar echoing off shattered towers behind. Its scales shimmered like moonlit bone. Along its spine ran a ridge of silver spines. Gray wing placed hand on snout. The beast inhaled his scent, eyes swirling opal. Liberus. He named it in the old tongue of Astapor slaves, meaning free. The dragon bowed head, horns touching his brow. Across the world, 7 first breaths rose into sky. Drogon felt each spark ignite. What? His own furnace heart thrummed crescendos of pride. Yet a warning note colored pride, a minor key of coming trial. For dragons newly born cannot remain hidden. Their cries carry on wind, and power-hungry hearts ever tune ears to such music. Nala wrapped Ashara in tattered cloak and descended Glacier Valley. Faint green smoke coiled from dragon's nostrils, carving heat path that melted snow ahead, easing passage. At valley floor, reindeer herds sniffed scorching air and fled. Ashara chirped triumph, but hunger soon pinched. Nala offered dried seal meat. Hatchling gobbled, small jaws already razor keen. Night approached with curtains of aurora. Nala built fire unnecessary for warmth now, but the dancing flames pleased her dragon, who batted sparks skyward. 4 nights later, after crossing timberline, they spotted ships hugging Skago's coast, ironborn raiders, black sails bearing kraken. Nala's people lived in fear of such. She ducked into pines, but silhouettes moved inland. 3 warriors armored in boiled leather. Ashara hissed low, belly scales shimmering. Nala's heart thundered. She was barely 14, no warrior. The Ironborn drew axes, eyes gleaming at sight of rare girl alone. Before they reached 10 paces, Ashara darted forward, wings flaring awkward yet deadly. A jet of greenish flame burst, catching foremost raider full. Leather sizzled. Screams split air. The others turned, horror fixing them as Dragonlet climbed onto burning corpse, screeching victory. They fled. Word of a green dragon on Skagos would spread like wildfire, Nala realized. She packed quickly and set for abandoned fishing hamlet where rumor spoke of hidden longboat beached after winter storms. Meanwhile, Lenore rode Stormlance bareback through moonlit passes, violet wings beating mountain air as stallion below thundered ground. They practiced trust, dragon gliding overhead, echoing Lenore's path like lightning twin. One dusk, Vale falcons attacked Stormlance. Territorial dog. Dragon responded with shockwave roar, scattering birds. Lenore cheered, though he feared airy knights might soon spy Dragon's sign and send patrols. When rumors reached Lady Erin, to whom would she turn? Perhaps to her puppet Littlefinger still alive in base timeline? Lenore decided resolves. Ride east to Gulltown, hire cutter to Dragonstone where ancient seat awaited new flock. He scribbled letter to Lord Edric Dane. Seek not to hold me. The sky claims what blood denies. Brynden and Emberfaith trudged upland away from marsh into foothills of Blackwood Vale. The former Septon wrestled guilt. What path lay for man forsaken by seven? Emberfaith seemed to sense turmoil, curling tale about Brynden at night, sharing heat that eased old ache and scourged back. One dawn they reached a hold-fast flying stag banner of Baratheon vassals. Refuge might be begged, but Brynden feared inquisition if clergy glimpsed Dragon. Instead, he guided Emberfaith through burnt-out hollows where king's men rarely patrolled, intending to navigate forest labyrinth toward Stonehenge, rumored neutral. Scotty and Warbrand trekked south by night, hidden beneath Aurora's glow. Word of a woman walking with shadow dragons spread among free folk refugees. Some fled, some knelt. At Crofter's village, deserters attempted ambush. Warbrand unleashed spiral flame that carved trench through snow, bisecting attackers. Scotty spared survivors, sending them north with warning. Winter obeys new master now. Yet ghosts of dead kings whispered caution. Remnants of Night's Watch might brand her demon. She needed allies beyond wall. She aimed for White Harbor, planning stowaway on ship bound coastwise for Dragonstone. Orio sailed Emerald Tide east along Summer Sea. Seabreaker perched figurehead-like at prow, relishing salt wind. Crew, at first terrified, soon revered Dragon as blessing from gods. Word reached Port of Nath that Volantine Triarchs offered rich bounty for dragon eggs or hatchlings. Orio altered course to avoid Volantis, steering for disputed lands coast where Essosi lords seldom patrolled. Yet merchants' whispers carry faster than seabirds. Pirate galleys sighted glimmer of gold upon waves and laid pursuit. Clarice and Noctira crossed ruins stealthily, knowledge guiding them along ley lines of old Valeria. Power currents invisible to mundane eye, but bright to Dragon's star sense. She deciphered glyphs marking safe passes through still smoking fissures. They aimed to reach Dragonstone archives rumored to house surviving fragments of Valyrian freehold lore, scrolls that might explain prophecy binding the Seven. But to depart Valyrian Peninsula, they must find ship at the Demon's Road where smoke demons and stone men roamed. Grey Wing marched north along coast, Liberus scouting sky overhead. They encountered columns of sellsword companies pillaging abandoned cities. At sight of Dragon, mercenaries either scattered or sought capture. Liberus proved defense, blinding foes with silver-white flame. Grey Wing spared those who threw down arms, recruiting handful awed by Dragon's majesty. These freedmen followed him, forming nascent brotherhood sworn to liberation. They set eyes on Dragonstone, birthplace of modern dragons. Politics shifted as rumors multiplied. In King's Landing, the small council, much reduced after wars, heard whispers. Green Dragon in Skagos, Violet in Vale, Red over Blackwood Vale, Black-Red on the Gift, Gold on Summer Sea, Blue in Valeria, White-Silver in Essos. Grand Maester Patella scorned tales until Raven from White Harbor reported charred remains of raiders up coast bearing marks of draconic flame. Queen Regent Muriel Lannister, ruling for young King Tommen II, demanded action. Gold cloaks cannot sail to Skagos, nor march into Vale without leave. She wrote ravens to Lords Stark and Arryn, seeking confirmation. None came swift. At Dragonstone, newly appointed Castellan Sir Garon Waters, bastard of late royal line, surveyed empty pens once home to Daenerys III. He felt wind shift, stench of ozone. Something approached, intangible. He doubled garrison, yet nightmares plagued men. Vision of seven-headed beast. Drogon circled high, unseen, shepherding currents that guided fledglings toward rendezvous. Yet he sensed predators loom. Archmaesters, wizards of Ashai, shadowbinders, Pentoshi magisters, all hungry. He must remain hidden sentinel lest humans slay brood before first molt. Still his own ire burned. He had not forgotten queen with silver hair lying cold. Slayers of dragons, usurpers of thrones, he would repay once heirs secure. On Skagos' rocky beach, Nala and Ashara found wrecked longboat, hull splintered but mast intact. She scavenged sailcloth, patched holes with sealskin, and with dragon's flame softened tar lumps for caulking. Village nets provided dried cod. At slack tide they shoved boat into surf. Ashara perched mast top, wings curbed small wind. Green flame boiled brine, forging fog curtain that concealed departure from ironborn watchers. They aimed south along Bite's treacherous currents. Lenore reached Gulltown after midnight and bribed Harbormaster for swift caravel starwind. Stormlance nested in hold bound by prayer that planks withstand heat. Lenore promised triple coin on arrival at Dragonstone. Crew stared wide-eyed as violet dragonlings scaled rigging, lightning crackling between spars. Gulltown gossips would feast, but by dawn sails already vanished into narrow sea. Brynden and Emberfaith skirted river runs war-scarred fields. They rescued small folk from roving brigands, dragon's breath scattering predators. Survivors dubbed Brynden Septon of Flame, following him westward. Emberfaith's glow lit night campfires, drawing still more refugees. By time they neared Maidenpool, a retinue of 30 trudged behind, singing hymns newly forged to honor fire. Scotty bartered passage on northbound trader Nor out of Eastwatch. Captain desperate after crew deserted at Warbrand's site. She swore Dragon would not blaze ship. At sea, Warbrand soared overhead, chasing gulls. Frost-rimmed sails flapped beneath Aurora as they charted route around Broken Arm toward Dragonstone. Orio's emerald tide outraced corsairs until muscled oars flagged. Seabreaker dove into waves, trailing steam contrail that blinded pursuers. At dusk, pirate flagship Bloodjade closed distance, scorpions loaded. Orio ordered maneuver. Seabreaker emerged beneath flagship's bow, blasting molten breath through keel. Sea swallowed pirates. Water hissed a cloud. Orio's crew cheered, hearts lifted by living sunrise that protected them. Clarice reached port city of Mantares, half collapsed yet harboring black-sailed traders. She purchased berth upon salt galley crewed by stonemen exiles, immune to grayscale's final stages. Captain accepted coin of knowledge. She promised cure rumored across narrow sea. Noctira roosted atop mast, eyes reflecting starlight unseen through daytime haze. Galley slipped from smoking coastline into open water, heading for stepstones. Grey Wing's band captured Carrick, owned by Volantine slavers, liberating holds of chained souls. Liberus melted shackles, roaring triumph. Freed captives hailed Grey Wing as breaker of chains, echoing title once Daenerys claimed. They manned ship, rechristening her Free Flame, and set course for Dragonstone, banners of no nation flown. 7 voyages converged upon island fortress like threads, drawn through Needle's eye. Storm raged as first of them arrived. Lenore's starwind beat swells, Dragonstow's basalt spires jutting like dragon teeth from sea. Stormlance, grown near mare size, shrieked delight at thunder. As gangplank dropped, Castellan Garin Waters hurried down causeway with archers. Seeing Violet Beast crackling electricity, men hesitated. Lenore dismounted, helm under arm. "We claim right of landing," he proclaimed. "By fire and blood." Stormlance planted claws, discharged dancing across stone, frying first arrow, daring loose. Archers retreated. Garin signaled cease, wisdom overshadowing pride. He offered Lenore shelter in empty courtyard once called Dragonmont Nursery. Hours later, Nala's patch skiff scraped black sand beach. She staggered ashore clutching Ashara. Castle horn sounded. Lenore hurried from keep, eyes widening at child and green dragon, smaller but alight with northern vigor. Recognition sparked, riders sensing kin. He ushered her inside before guards overcame fear. Within week, Warbrand's shadow loomed. Skadi strode along causeway, red-black dragon breathing steam. Next came Emberfaith guiding procession of small folk across Castle Drawbridge. Then Seabreaker landing on seaward ramparts. Next Noctira spiraling above parapets under starry dusk. Finally Liberus bearing grey wing at prow of free flame. Dragonstone, once empty, now throbbed with draconic heartbeats. 7 riders gathered in ancient throne chamber where Stannis once brooded. Tall arched windows admitted sea roar. Torchlight flickered over basalt walls carved with dragons old. Drogon perched atop tower pinnacle outside, eyes glowing. Silence weighed until Stormlance crackled. Lenore spoke first. "We are called. We know not why, but know we are 7 and 1. He gestured to small Nala, cloaked in sealskin. Age no barrier. Blood perhaps shared. What binds? Clarice unrolled, crumbling scroll. Prophecy, from freehold fragments. When last son of flame divides life into 7 shards, fire shall course through veins of world anew. Dragonlords reborn, not of dynasty but of need. Brynden touched scorched sigil. Need, indeed. Realms shattered by wars of thrones and undead. We represent every corner. Northchild, desert bastard, broken septon, spearwife, island captain, maester of hidden texts, freed slave. 7 faces of new world. Nebremesingdahar. Skadi spat onto floor. Frost sizzle. Talk later. First feed dragons fortify earthen walls. Enemies will come. As if summoned, horns blared. Raven arrived reporting fleet of Lannister and Crown ships sailing from Blackwater Bay, led by King's Hand Sir Boros Royce, intent on securing dragons for realm safety. Riders exchanged looks. Drogon's shadow swept across windows, his roar rattling stone. Lenore looked to others. Then we test wings of our fledglings sooner than hoped. He drew blade. Stormlance answered with crack of lightning down hall. Nala clenched small fists, Ashara coiling around shoulders, hiss, steam. Warbrand's growl reverberated. Seabreaker clapped tail. Noctira's eyes starbright. Emberfaith's coils flared. Liberus' wings unfurled. 7 riders strode for courtyard, where dragons awaited Hatchin's second baptism. Baptism of flame in war. Wind-whipped cloak edges, stinging with salt. In distance, masts dotted horizon like forest of spears. Lenore vaulted to Stormlance's back, thunder booming. One by one, others mounted. Nala climbed using Ashara's forelime, heart racing, not with fear but belonging. Clarice grasped neck spines of Noctira. Scholar no more but night scribe. Brynden grasped Emberfaith. Prayer forming new litany. Fire, mercy, wrath, renewal. Skadi swung astride Warbrand, howling. Oreo laughed, feeling deck under him replaced by wings. Grey wing vaulted Liberus. Spear raised high. Castle garrison watched, jaws slack, as 7 Dragonlords lifted into gale. Drogon launched above them, elder black titan shepherding brood. His roar painted storm clouds crimson. The fledglings' inferno answered. Green, violet, red, onyx, gold, blue, white flames interweaving into braided banner. From flagship regal might, Sir Boros Royce stared skyward, armor clanging as fear chilled marrow. He had expected rumors' exaggeration. To see 7 dragons ascend, guided by 8th enormous, shattered bravado. He croaked order to turn sails, but wind died, heat vacuum drawn by dragons' approach. Stormlance struck first. Bolt of purple lightning arcing from jaws, spearing through mainmast of lioness pride. It exploded into splinters, sparking fires across deck. Crew leapt screaming. Seabreaker swooped low, exhaling liquid gold fire that slithered atop waves, turning sea to glass sheet that shattered under hulls. Ashara, though smallest, darted with lethal precision. Her emerald flame cut rigging from Queen's Mercy, sails sagging, ship turning broadside into rock. Warbrand descended roaring, red-black inferno shearing through rows of archers. Ash snowed onto deck, searing through mail. Noctira circled high, dark blue flame raining like meteors, targeted on scorpions before bolts launched. Emberfaith wreathed flagship in red haze. Heat so intense paint bubbled, steel rivets popped. Crew dropped weapons, praying. Liberus landed on forecastle, tail-sweeping soldiers. Gray-winged spear flashed, freeing chained galley slaves forced to row. They scrambled to decks, seizing arms. Within quarter hour, fleet lay crippled. Survivors abandoned burning vessels, plunging into sea where glass shards lacerated. Drogon hovered sentinel, forbidding slaughter beyond need. Riders guided dragons back to ramparts. Flames eased. Storm battered smoking wrecks. On beach, Grey Wing and Brynden led rescue of drowning men, offering mercy. Warbrand and Ashara warmed chilled survivors. Captive soldiers glimpsed humanity in Dragonlords. Evening fell crimson. In council chamber, riders debated next step. Clarice spread star map, aligning dragon birth points along lines converging on Dragonstone. Intersections she marked showed pulse where Valyrian lake currents flowed strong. "This keep is heart," she said. "World's arteries of magic reopened. If we stay, every power will march." Oraio tugged braid. "We sail west, bring war to those plotting. But fractured we fall. We need covenant." Brynden suggested oath of 7 flames, binding each to protect mortal realms, not dominate. Daddy scoffed at vows but conceded value. Thus beneath basalt vault, 7 placed hands atop obsidian altar, each palm slit by Warbrand's talon. Blood pooled, mingling colors and origins. Dragons roared outside, and Drogon added elder voice. Blood hissed, flashed crimson fire, then absorbed into stone. Ancient runes ignited, proclaiming covenant none there could read, yet all felt burn in hearts. Guardians, not conquerors. Yet beyond seas, eyes watched. Archon of Tyrosh, Prince of Dorne, Korth warlocks, faceless men. And from far north, whisper of another power stirring. Faint rattle of ice chains not wholly broken. 7 Dragonlords set watch rotations, training drills, forge works. Lenore guided smiths to craft saddle harnesses. Clarice tutored Nala in Valyrian script. Skadi trained freed slaves in spear and bow. Grey Wing drilled discipline. Brynden organized ration stores, teaching smallfolk hymns to fire. Oraio commanded shipyard to build fleet of dragon-guarded sails. Weeks passed. Dragons grew, shedding first skins for brighter scales. Their flame deepened, wings strengthened. Ashara soared to clouds, bringing back thundersnow. Stormlance crackled storms. Emberfaith tinted sunset skies scarlet. Warbrand's roar split stone. Seabreaker dove into sea, emerging with boiled kraken flesh. Noctira painted constellations onto night by scattering stardust breath. Liberus glided serene, silver silhouette amid dawn. But omen came. Raven with message sealed in wax bearing white sun banner of citadel. Grand Conclave demanded surrender of dragons for study. Threat of excommunication. Blockade by reach. Alliance with crown. Riders scoffed. Yet, letter carried addendum. Rumor that last living Targaryen prince, Aegon, young pretender fostered in Essos, gathered cell sails, offering to be rightful Dragonlord if given eggs. Tensions rose within Council of 7. Some argued alliance with claimant might unite realm. Others decried monarchy. Drogon observed silently, tail lashing tower into rubble when voices heated. While debate raged, assassins slipped onto island, faceless men disguised as shipwrecked fishermen. They crept into nursery cavern where hatchlings slumbered. Shadowblade raised over sleeping Liberus. But before strike fell, Dragon's eye snapped open, silver pupil narrowing. Assassin plunged dagger, scale deflected. Liberus shrieked, sending psychic alarm through all dragons. Warbrand burst through wall, Ashara from vent, Emberfaith from hall. Cavern lit to inferno. Assassins died nameless. Riders thankful yet shaken realized threat ceaseless. Clarice pored over runes, uncovering prophecy's second verse. 7 shall ride yet, for each there lies mirror of ice and void. Only union of flame and flesh may seal night undone. She interpreted, an enemy to each rider, counterpart born of dark. News soon validated. Scouts in shivering sea Brachtan tale of icy drake sighted near Hardhome, corpse white, ridden by figure veiled in frozen mist. Perhaps remnant of night king's power regained. Others reported shadow serpents conjured in shadowlands of Ashai. 7 dark dragon forms, sowing dread. The game revealed larger board. 7 flames against 7 voids. Drogon alone soared between. Sentinel of balance. Riders vowed to track dark echoes, extinguish before bloom. But World of Men still pressed petty wars. Lannister Regent now sought alliance with Iron Banked to fund Second Navy, reinforced with Braavosi, Ballistae. Tyrole's courted citadels purge. Dornish princes offered peace for dragon marriage. Choices spiraled. Council agreed first move, secure realms trust. They would embark on great flight. Spectacle across 7 kingdoms, showing dragons not instruments of tyranny but wardens. Brynden composed Hymnlight of 7 Fires. Small folk taught verses. Caravans prepared relief grain for famine-struck riverlands delivered under Emberfaith's escort. Liberus flew to Lies to negotiate freedom charters for slaves. Seabreaker carried Arraio to Summer Isles forging alliance of navies. Stormlance and Ayashara visited Winterfell, swearing protection to King and the North Cregan Stark. Noctira soared above Old Town at dusk, projecting astral map onto sky, leaving maesters awestruck. Yet as they dispersed, shadows moved. In frozen north, corpse-white drake Frostmaw hatched, rider unknown carved of ice. In stepstones, sorcerer conjured smoke dragon Nightgale echoing Noctira's silhouette. Fires met void. Word reached Dragonstone. Frostmaw raised Wailing Village, leaving statues of ice. Stormlands and Ashara summoned but distant. Drogon lifted, black giant crossing heavens, but he felt chill tug, familiar yet alien. Conflict inevitable. Grey Wing volunteered hunt with Liberus. Scotty insisted Warbrand join. Arraio offered Seabreakers sea sense. Council resolved. 5 dragons would engage Frostmaw while Clarice and Emberfaith investigated Ashai rumors. Lenore and Nashara protected Dragonstone. Before departure, riders gathered beneath full moon. They touched foreheads to Drogon's scale, feeling warmth and warning both. Brynden intoned blessing. We are 7 but flame is 1. Let hearts burn steady. Scotty jabbed air. And enemy freeze in hell. Laughter broke tension. They launched. Moon haloed their flight. Silver and crimson tails streaming. Drogon followed above clouds. Distance, guardian. Frostmaw's roar soon echoed across ice plains. The answer to challenge. Battle loomed. First of many to decide if fire's rebirth would herald dawn or kindle apocalypse. But in hearts of 7 burned covenant, forged of mixed blood on obsidian altar. Voice of Drogon behind, promise of new age ahead. Age where Dragonlords rose not by birthright, but by choice. The world turned beneath beating wings, kingdoms sleeping in false peace. Maesters squabbling in candlelight, sellswords sharpening blades they might never wield. Children dreaming of flying things. Dawn inched across horizon, scattering indigo. Flames awaited day. Ice awaited night. Over silent tundra, 7 silhouettes spread wings of hope and dread alike, destined to paint skies with war, and perhaps to forge from ashes a tomorrow no prophecy dared predict. A hush, brittle as rime on new-formed ice, blanketed the northern wastes as dawn paled behind ragged clouds. On the horizon, Hardhome's charred palisade jutted like black fangs from the shoreline, half swallowed by pack ice creeping down from the pole. Dottie crouched on Warbrand's withers, frost glittering in her braids, while Grey Wing balanced astride Liberus a spear's length away. Far below, the shag-edged cliffs vanished beneath white void. Fog risen from a sea turned to slush. The wind tasted of brine and graves, and somewhere beyond the mildew of rot, a colder tang lingered. The scent of magic scoured clean of all warmth. A hoarse cry rose from the ruins, not gull, not raven. It vibrated in the marrow like a splinter of glass drawn across bone. Warbrand's hackles flared, every crimson vein along his obsidian wings glowing ember bright. Liberus, silver crest erect, mirrored the posture but made no sound. The calm before two storms converged. Behind them Ario circled wide upon Seabreaker, gold scale scattering shafts of sun through fast-moving cloud. Noctira rode the upper thermals, a living starfield eclipsing the wan light, Clarice clinging to the midnight hide while her eyes scanned chart lanes invisible to all save dragon and scholar. They had not dared bring Brynden nor Emberfaith into this freezing theater. Riverland's succor could not be abandoned to Shadowspawn. Nor could Nala and Azshara be risked. Too young, still fragile, bound to Dragonstow's hearthfire in case the Isle's heart needed quick defenders. The Chosen Five would confront Frostmaw. And if prophecy spoke true, the first of 7 void rakes would bleed upon the snow this morn, or the Covenant would fail in its infancy. Scotty signaled by twisting Warbrand's neck scales. Dive Itol. Crimson membrane snapped downward, and air howled across her cheeks as shattered ice cliffs rushed up. Liberus followed, gray-white wings tucked, gray-wing spear couched. Seabreaker peeled off to starboard, golden flash plunging into the whiteout near sea level. Noctira arrowed straight into the sun-kissed mist above, vanishing as though swallowed by daylight. Shapes emerged. Structures that had once been the fishing huts of free folk, but were now sculptures of translucent crystal. A rowboat lay frozen mid-capsize, oar blades locked under layers of hoarfrost 2 palms thick. Fish, mid-slither, curved in ice that etched their scales with cobalt fractals. Warbrand back wing to hover. Scotty's breath steamed. Her lungs burned with a cold radiating from below. On Liberus, Grey Wing felt every old scar tighten. The chill had memories, and it whispered of chains. He looked to Scotty, nodded. They pressed forward. The cry came again, deeper, closer. Whole ridges quivered, sending cascades of glassy shards tinkling into ravines. They found Frostmaw on the shattered plateau where Hardhome's grand hall had stood. The void drake dwarfed Warbrand by half again, hide the color of packed snow with a sheen like moon-glazed steel. Frozen mist clung to its scales, each plate rimmed in serrated ice. Along its back rose jagged spines, hollow, and through them the wind howled an eerie organ note. Frostmaw's wings, vast, translucent as polar aurora, arched across the ruins, their veins pulsing with a dim cerulean glow. Beneath the drake's breast lay the crystallized corpses of dozens of free folk. Figures halt in flight, mouths agape, eyes glazed as sapphires. Upon Frostmaw's shoulders sat the rider. The figure's armor was wrought of interlocking plates of clear ice bound by bands of shadow thicker than the gaps between stars. Flawless, cold, shifting with an inner swirl of gray. Where a face should have been beneath the visor was only darkness in which particles of drifting snow whirled. 2 pinpoints of icy blue fire burned where eyes would be. Grey Wing's heart hammered. Warbrand bellowed challenge, conflagration buffeting ruins in scarlet glare. Yet the rider raised a hand, and in hush that followed Scotty heard the tinkle of tear-frozen grass, the scrape of everwinter on stone. Frostmaw moved. No ripple of muscle, merely instant translation from one ledge to another, snow eddies swirling in the void left behind. Scotty felt it then. A gnawing sense of emptiness, as if Warbrand's furnace heart were being drawn through an unseen keyhole. She clamped thighs harder, whispered to her dragon in old tongue. Warbrand reoriented. Banks of swirling red-black smoke coalesced along his flanks. He exhaled. Flame erupted. It tore color from the air, curling across stone in 100 tongues of magmatic red. Heat ripple danced over frozen ground and died. Half a pace from Frostmaw's breast the inferno flattened against an invisible barrier, then shrank, shrinking still, until red became dull orange. Orange became sullen ember, and embers winked into ash. The rider's hand closed to a fist. The residual heat whipped backwards, slapping Warbrand's snout. He recoiled, shrieking, crimson crest flickering like coals starved of air. Liberus banked right, angle for flank. Grey Wing hurled his spear. It spun end over end, silver head aimed at the rider's dark face. Yet an explosion of ice shards burst from Frostmaw's shoulder. The spear ricocheted and clanged to ground, encased in fresh crystal. Liberus swept low, jaws yawning, releasing scalding silver flame. Frostmaw's wing flicked downward. A wall of diamond dust roared forth, swallowing the flame, whereupon the dust flashed to hissing steam, then froze again into lethal rain, pelting Liberus with 1,000 needles. Dragon cried, blood blooming ruby bright along white hide. Skadi cursed sky gods, spurred Warbrand into corkscrew climb. Lure away, she cried across wind. Greywing heard, guided Liberus into rising spiral that drew Frostmaw's cold gaze upward. Orio and Seabreaker materialized from fog-like sunlight refracted through glass, golden flame rippling across roiling vapor. They slammed into Frostmaw's left flank. Impact thundering, claws raking. Steam hissed, but again barrier dulled heat. Frostmaw pivoted, tail scythed, hammering Seabreaker from air. Gold Dragon spun, wings shuddering, Orio hanging on by rope harness. Clarice chose that instant to strike from above. Noctira stooped like a night meteor, wings folded. Starlight ignited along her spine. A corona of indigo fire laced with white specks. She pierced barrier. There is sound. Glass under sledgehammer. Then shriek as Noctira's talons found ice armor. Frost spidered outward. Cracks racing. Clarice loosed pot of wildfire, stolen from Dragonstone. It burst, emerald blossoms searing rider's torso. Shadow plates sizzled sloughed. The rider reeled. Frostmaw shrieked, not a natural organ note, but raw living agony. The sound rattled teeth. Its barrier flickered. Warbrand and Liberus seized moment, unleashing synchronized fire that smote exposed flank. Ice armor liquefied, dripping in rivulets that hissed and refroze half down slope. Skadi drove Warbrand's claws into Frostmaw's wing joint. Membranes tore like parchment. Wind howled through sundered edge. Yet Void Drake answered with surge of killing frost. From broken wing erupted vortex of snow so fine it cut like ground glass. Warbrand's chestplate frosted white, wings stiffened. Frost raced chains across Skadi's armor, numbing limbs. She felt lungs seize. Warbrand's flame guttered. Gray wing, eyes slits against stinging flurry, uncoiled whip of dragonglass chain he had forged for this hunt. He hurled it. Link smacked onto Frostmaw's muzzle. Shards embedding deep. Liberus snapped jaws. Silver fire flashed along chain, heating obsidian links to white glow. Frostmaw bucked, clawing at muzzle, and smote barrier collapsed in that quadrant. Seabreaker, recovered, arrowed in. Orio drove spear of fashion-forged bronze straight beneath Frostmaw's armpit. The spearhead shattered ice, pierced leathery hide beneath. Frostmaw bellowed, crystalline spines flashed. A halo of pale lightning exploded outward. Static frostbite that tossed dragons like toys. Seabreaker tumbled, wing trailing ragged tear. Warbrand and Liberus brawled across fractured keystones. Noctira shot skyward, paws raking air to regain lift. By chance or fate, the wildfire still burned on Rider's chest, wreathing torso in green flames that flickered like spectral banners. Through smoke Clarice glimpsed the hollow visor. Within, those twin blue fires remained calm, pitiless. Shadow rebuilt about cracked plates, as though darkness poured from the void itself, weaving armor anew. She felt dread prick nape. This adversary was not flesh easily slain. Above the field, clouds boiled. A shape vast and blacker than storm wheeled. The sentinel come at last. Drogon roared. The sound sundered cloud roof, thunder scattered. With hurricane descent he struck, talons seething. Impact cratered Hardhome's plateau, stone splitting under tonnage of ancient flame. His breath, volcanic, annihilating, drenched crater in horror red. Barrier shattered wholly, ice armor runneled. Rider raised both hands, weaving lattice of shadow, but Drogon's fire consumed. When searing glare waned, plateau lay slick with molten glass runnels. Frostmaw writhed, ice plates run to slush. Rider knelt, half armor dripping void ichor. Drogon's second roar carried command. Warbrand forced numb muscles to rise. Liberus shook ice shards. Seabreaker banked though wing bled. Noctira circled overhead like silent moon. 5 young dragons formed ring round Titan, penning Frostmaw at center. Skadi gathered strength, slid from saddle, boots crunching on glazed rubble. She walked toward Ryder, whose armor steamed under residual heat. Frost crackled where each step of hers fell. She drew bone knife. "Name yourself." Wind whipped. Voice that answered was like branches scraping a tombstone. "I am Nihilus, shade of first martyr, steward of winter no sun. I am the echo left when ice died and night remembered. I am hunger that fire cannot sat." Skadi spat, blade held low. "You are trespass beyond wall." She glanced to Clarice. The Maester scholar nodded, recording words for prophecy's calculus. Nihilus lifted gauntlet. Frost patch renewed across cracked chest. "7 flames will gutter," he rasped. "First I break, the rest will shiver." Grey Wings strode up beside Skadi, spear recovered though half scorched. "We broke chains forged by gods of old. You are but one more link, Kanta." His voice rang steady. Liberus chuffed steam ascent. Nihilus laughed. "Sound like creaking frozen timbers." Frostmaw struggled, but wounds deep. One wing dragging, membranes torn. Drogon's gaze pinned Drake, flame building in throat. Skadi raised knife. "Choose mercy, return to void, or stay and feed my friend." Warbrand hissed, blazing. Nihilus straightened, swirling snow tightened, congealing into shield. Runes glimmered across ice fractals. But as shadows massed, a new force intruded. Distant, thunderous beating of colossal wings. All eyes lifted. Over far northern skyline, sliver of silver-gray silhouette appeared. Dragon perhaps thrice Frostmaw's mass, wingspan blotting dawn. Lights danced along its hide, auroral flickers. Clarice felt compass of fate flip. "Another comes," she murmured. "Not void, not flame." Drogon rumbled low query. Unknown giant loomed, closing fast, crest wreathed with luminous ribbons. Frostmaw bugled weak answer. Shadows around Nihilus coiled, retreatful. The rider mounted wounded Drake. Frostmaw beat damaged wings, staggering into air borne by hurricane updraft conjured from void. In seconds they dwindled to glimmer, then vanished within gloom under belly of newcomer. Warbrand snarled to pursue, but Skadi hand gestured halt. They would not outrun unknown and risk 5 fledglings versus colossal stranger. Drogon alone surged skyward to intercept. As he climbed, stranger banked, revealing lithe serpentine form, scales reflecting prismatic colors shifting like northern lights. It circled wide berth, and at distance, dipped broad head in what seemed salute before swiveling north into cloud realms. Following retreating Frostmaw. Drogon exhaled furnace glare, but did not give chase. He sensed design yet unspooled. He descended. 5 dragons and riders regrouped. Skadi's lips blew, but fire kindled within her eyes. One void temporarily bested, but war not done. Another force intervened. Menaus. Clarice set quill to parchment at once, words streaming. Aurora Drake, unknown in lore. Not ice, not flame, but flows of sky magic. Possibly neutral, or yet undecided power. Orio bound Seabreaker's wing with shipsail canvas. "We crippled Frostmaw. That is victory. We live. Realm will sing." Grey wings scraped ice from Liberus's crest. But Frostmaw lives, and Shade Rider lives. They will lick wounds and learn. Drogon landed behind them, wings folding, eyes deep ember. He extended neck toward Warbrand, touched snout, wordless commendation, then repeated to each fledgling. Dragons crooned gratitude. Clouds parted. Full sun spilled gold across plateau, rays refracting through shattered ice into rainbow shards. Frost statues of free folk shimmered. Skadi knelt, breaking fragile crystals, letting remains drift into air to free souls caught mid-fear. She murmured prayer older than first men. Clarice completed notes, closed journal bound in sky blue leather. "We must return." Dragonstone needs record. If Aurora Drake is wild card, prophecy may shift pivot from seven-wide void to triune war. They prepared to depart. Oraio fashioned makeshift sling for wounded Seabreaker beneath Liberus's broader wings. Grey Wing and Warbrand broke ice ledges to craft runway. Noctira scouted sky lanes, assuring path clear. When they rose from Hardhome, wind carried their combined roar across talons of ice flow. It echoed through ruined holdfasts, stirring hearts of wildlings sheltering underground. Some wept, thinking old gods answered. Others hid, fearing new tyrants. Word would travel on ravens. Dragons fought north of Wall, fire against ice, and dawn sky shimmered with unnamed myth. On Dragonstone, Lenore trained Nala to ride thermals above battlements. Ishara darted loops round stormlands, both infants relative yet growing daily. Small folk cheered children aloft, hope budding where once fear reigned. Brynden and Emberfaith returned from Riverlands, relief grain delivered, hymns adopted by Septons who found hearts warmed. He carried message, Crown Navy rebuilding with sell-sail gold still. But small folk swell in numbers behind Faith of Flame. They cry for conclave to bless Dragonlords, rather than condemn. Emberfaith laid head beside courtyard braziers, humming, scales glowing. Coal banks burst to life, forging heat for blacksmiths day and night. Armaments multiplied. Scatty's party arrived battered but triumphant. Warbrand landed first, body steaming. Scotty leapt down, shouting for medics. Liberus touched ground next. Seabreaker nestled beneath wing. Healers hurried. Clarice dismounted Noctira with parchment rolls. Grey Wing supported Oraio down gangplank. Drogon circled one final time, then soared to Ares, carving thermals for comfort. Lenore greeted allies, eyes widening at wounds. Still, pride radiated. He offered Stormwine to Grey Wing, clapped Scotty's shoulder. First clash won. Grey Wing drank deep. First round only. He met Lenore's gaze. Ice Rider wields magic that counters flame. We cannot rely on heat alone. Clarice spread star map across courtyard table. Points shifted before watchers. Charred embers for flame, blue crystals for void, and new piece of prism glass for Aurora Drake. Balance of forces unstable, she warned. If Aurora Rider aligns with void, we face 8 to 7. Should they side with us, flame gains edge, but prophecy now uncertain. Brynden arrived, robes fresh mended. 7, always number sacred, he said. Perhaps Aurora exists to test unity. If we bicker, it tips cold. If we stand, it yields. Scotty slammed fist to hilt. Then we stand. She turned to Oraio, who winced from bound ribs. Fleet. Damaged but afloat, the summer captain said. I will sail for shipyards of Tolos. With dragons overhead, craftsmen will obey. Plans formed. Rebuild, recruit, research ways to combat cold barrier. Clarice suggested dragonglass tempered in wildfire, forging spears wreathed in living flame, unaffected by void siphon. Nala floated idea of harnessing hot springs beneath Dragonmont to weave geothermal vents into traps should Frostmaw attack island. Lenore advanced concept of high-altitude sweeps to intercept courier ravens from Crown to Citadel, delaying enemy coordination. Brynden set to draft unified creed, blending 7 and flame, to convert more hearts and erode Crown's moral high ground. Throughout nights, dragons healed. Warbrand's frost-bitten scales flaked, replaced by darker armor. Liberus's needle wounds closed faster under Seaworm's salve. Seabreaker's torn membrane knitted, edges sintered by dragonfire cautery. Noctira bore no mark. Frost could not grasp starlight. While Forge Bellows sang, Clarice delved Valyrian palimpsests. One dusk, she uncovered ciphered scripture referencing Skora Lithfir, Aurora of the living flame, a quasi-mythic drake said to wander polar skies. Herald of cosmic balance, older than Valyria. Writ claimed it never bound to riders of blood alone, but to heart that houses dawn and dusk as one. She brought scroll to council. Speculation roared. Who among them might coax Aurora Drake? If indeed same beast, to alliance. All eyes on Nala first, child of dawnless winter, and dragon's green spring. On Grey Wing, whose past held night yet soul sought day. On Clarisse, whose mind tethered starlight to earth. But Drogon rumbled from high perch. Rumble settling debate. Not yet. Word reached island. Tyrell host marched from Highgarden, banners in bloom, seeking negotiate or threaten. Queen Regent's envoy demanded parley at Storm's End. Dragons banned from skies else considered aggression. Council weighed risk. Lenore volunteered to ride Stormlance alone to Storm's End ramparts, public display, but measured. Brynden insisted accompany on Emberfaith, to show faith of Flame's temperance. They departed under overcast veil. At Storm's End, gale carved sea spume against giant walls. Lord Garland Tyrell, sword pinned with golden rose, awaited. Terms brusque. Crown would permit Dragonlords dominion over Dragonstone and Stepstones, mining rights in return for dragon eggs as bargaining chips and royal marriage between King Tommen II and suitable Dragonlord ward, Nala or Clarisse. Refusal meant reach fleet blockade. Lenore answered with thunderous laugh, Stormlance crackling above parapet. Brynden spoke of covenant to protect small folk, not barter children. He offered alternative. Alliance predicated on grain shipments to Famine North in exchange for aerial patrols, guarding Reach harvest from raiders. Garland listened. He valued land more than Crown's pride. Parley extended late into storm-lashed night. Meanwhile, at Dragonstone, a dream troubled Nala. She rode skies beside unknown Drake, trailing auroras. Voice? Neither man nor woman, but many. Echoed heart, balanced freeze winter's lock. She woke sweat-slick though air warm. Aishara dozed curled round her. She whispered dream into Dragon's frill. Green eyes mirrored chromatic ribbons unseen. Outside, Warbrand patrolled ramparts restless, sensing change. On Seacliff fringe, a glow pulsed over water, the lantern of incoming fishing coracle. Guards challenged. Fishermen collapsed, frostbitten, whispering tale. White Knife River frozen solid midsummer. Ice whites prowling barrowlands. Scotty heard, felt spine chill deeper than Frostmaw's breath. She summoned counsel. Void forces already at work south of Wall. She growled. We cannot sit foraging while North unravels. Clarisse warned dividing would invite attack on home front. Brynden absent, Lenore gone. Orio prepping fleet. Yet Scotty would not yield. She proposed strike team. Herself, Nala, Grey Wing, Dragons swift, to scout White Knife, determined threat. If Whites marched, they must be stopped before Wintertown's doomed. Drogon's low thunder from tower accepted. He bent neck so Nala could mount between spines. Surprise widened her eyes. She looked to Scotty, who grinned fierce. Elder Grant's escort. No safer ride. Nah, him. Thus before dawn, Warbrand, Liberus Aishara, astride Drogon's shadow, flew north again, forging trail of sparks over dark sea. Clarisse watched until specks vanished. Uneasy tug gnawing. Lenore's diplomacy bore fragile fruit. Garland Tyrell agreed to covert aid shipments. In return, Dragonlords would protect Rose Road convoys. But concession required Garland's secrecy, lest Crown brand him traitor. Brynden sealed pact on altar of 7 flames set in Storm's End Hall, flame kissing golden rose emblem, until petals glowed coral. They returned satisfied, until Raven from Dragonstone informed Skade's sortie. Lenore cursed. Brynden prayed. Stormlance beat wings for home at once. On White Knife, Scotty's vanguard discovered horrors. River frozen thick as castle walls. Below surface thousands of fish entombed mid-swim, blue light flickering through ice. At bend near Widows Watch they found village whites. Men, women, standing silent in mid-action, as though time halted. Frostmaw prints lined riverbank, blood droplets freeze-dried to crimson glass. Nihilus sigil carved upon cairn, 7-pointed star inverted, each point icicle. Drogon roared challenge. Valley answered with echo, mocking emptiness. Warbrand incinerated cairn, Ice Star hissed, cracking river sheet. But power laced water. Fissures leaked blue flame, freezing hot. Nala clutched Ashara tighter. Her dragon burbled uncertain. Gray Wing sensed ambush early. Shapes lurking under ice. Shadows moving against current unnatural. He launched Liberus skyward, but with cry. Void harpoons of glacial darkness erupted. Tendrils lashing upward, ensnaring Liberus' tail. Gray Wing, chopped with dragonglass knife. Severed tendril which shattered. Warbrand dove, blasting. Tendrils recoiled under fire. Yet more rose, encircling Drogon's limbs, weighty as iron. Skadi realized river itself alive, harnessed as trap. She bellowed to Nala, "Search focus point." Girl scanned, saw swirl of auroral shimmer beneath ice center. She urged Drogon low. Massive jaws gnashed free of tendrils. Ashara leapt from saddle, talons gouging river sheet. Frost cracked, exposing swirling gyre of glowing water. Portal perhaps where void mages channeled power. Nala felt dream memory. Heart balanced freeze winter. She slid down Drogon's shoulder, landed on trembling ice, crawled toward Whirl. Cold stabbed boots, numbed calves. She drew knife Lenore gifted, carved rune Clarisse had taught, a sigil uniting sun and moon symmetrical. She slashed palm, let blood drip onto vortex. Green and ruby swirls instantly flared emerald, meeting blue. Steam burst, tendrils shrieked, withdrew like scalded worms. Crack split ice open. Geyser of blistering mist soared, painting dawn sky with rainbow columns. Void magic severed, river resumed flow, shards crumbling. White villagers collapsed in heaps, flesh turning to snow. Frostmaw was nowhere. But Nala felt distant howl. Void fruit pruned yet root lived. Drogon nudged her gently back to saddle, fire eyes proud. Warbrand roared triumph. Liberus shook free last tendril scrap. They ascended before thawing ice gave way entirely. As they flew, aurora flickered faint along horizon northward. The unknown Drake's trail. In Dragonstone's great hall, the returning party shared findings with Clarisse, Lenore, Orio, and Brynden. Nala recounted Bloodward. Clarisse recognized rune. Merging glyphs of Azur's flame and Children's moontear. Knowledge gleaned from Starcrypt. She posited Aurora Drake Shepherd's equilibrium between polar magics. Nertha's ancient spirit perhaps rides it. Council accepted new doctrine. Fire alone insufficient. Balance demanded synergy of elemental forces through hearts of dragons and riders both. Nala inadvertently achieved first, balanced flame, countering void at river. Orio raised toast. To little sister saving north. Cheers echoed. But victory small. Ice tendrils proved void sorcerers could reach deep south. Clarisse predicted next assault target. Old Town's high tower, locus of ley where star ocular lines cross. If Citadel fell under ice, knowledge of world would freeze. They must intercept. Lenore and Stormlance, Noctera and Clarisse Seabreaker healed, would fly to Old Town, propose truce to Conclave, quell fear, defend tower. Brynden and Emberfaith ride by sea, escorting grain galleys, turning populous hearts. Skadi, Grey Wing, Nala remained Dragonstone to guard eggs. Yes, eggs. For Ashara, Noctera, and Liberus had begun laying clutches. Proof flame renewed. Drogon perched watchful father over next generation. Preparation consumed days. Smiths forged balanced weapons, steel tempered in wildfire then quenched in night-cold seawater, capturing dichotomy. Clarisse bound runes on hilts with obsidian inlays. Night before departure, Clarisse stood on sea terrace. Noctera settled behind, wind rustling star-woven wing. Scholar gazed at horizon where aurora glimmered faint pastel. She whispered vow to find the drake, learn secret of balance so that flame and void might break eternal cycle of conquest and freeze. Of her, atop highest tower, Drogon stared same lights, ancient eyes reflecting epochs. Perhaps he pondered queen lost, world reborn, or simply measured winds of wars to come. Lightning flickered distant east, thunder muttered. War yet brewed on land of men. crown fleets, Iron Bank mercenaries, Karth warlocks, bent on dragon capture. Beneath sea, krakens stirred by seabreakers' gold. Over snowy wastes, Frostmaw healed. Nihilus plotting, gathering new allies of null frost. Beyond, Aurora Drake's sword, sentinel of cosmic ledger. 7 nights later, under sickle moon, multicolored squadron took flight. Stormland spearing clouds, Noctura trailing constellations, Seabreaker gliding serene. They carried hopes of kingdom, unborn dragons' futures, and fragile thread between burning dawn and frozen dusk. On ramparts, Scotty watched until sparks faded. Warbrand rumbled disquiet. She stroked his jaw. Patience, my beast. We shall taste battle again soon. But victory first belongs to Quill and kindness. She glanced where Brynden guided farmers into rebuilt granaries glowing under ember lanterns. She almost smiled. Grey Wings sat sharpening balanced spear. Liberus curled behind like Alabaster Hill. He spoke low to Scotty. When war ends, what then for people like us? She pondered. If world gains peace, we'll teach them how to keep it. Dragons not just war, dragons remind folk sky still wide. Nala meanwhile traced rune again on parchment, memorizing strokes. Ashara chirped, nudging Quill, wishing play. Nala giggled, tension easing. We did good. Then, seriousness returned. Must study more. Next time ice won't wait. The wind shifted mild, carrying scent of blooming roses from south. Proof Tyrell convoys nearing. Lifelines weaving. Far above, unseen, Aurora Drake banked. Luminous trail rippling like silk across midnight. Watchers on distant coast dropped nets to stare. Some whispered omen of gods, others fear. But in Dragonstone's court, Drogon exhaled slow plume of smoke shaped as spiral, ancient smile in gold-lit eyes. Dawn approached, and though night spawned terrors, flame and balance had answered. The tapestry of war, prophecy, and fragile alliances continued to weave. Each thread lit by dragonfire, or frozen by void. For 7 Dragonlords, every breath now ignited future's forge. Every wing beat hammered shape of age yet unnamed. Victory or oblivion awaited beyond next horizon. But hope, bright as newborn scale, beat within their ribs, and in that rhythm lived promise the world itself might be remade in colors unseen since first dawn sprayed gold across shattered Valerian hills, swept onward by wind smelling of ash, salt, and spring blossoms. They would write the next verse high against firmament, letters formed of flame, frost, and starlight, until all beneath looked up and learned to read new sky.